the market is whatever the market is. Like that's not something that we can control, but you can control how successful you are in every market by adopting the right thing, the right mindset, the right tools and tactics, and of course, consistency. That's the theme. Regardless of what market you're in, you're going to have to do something consistently. Good morning. Welcome to another Real Estate First Friday. My name is Matthew Hodge, Executive Vice President here at LPT Realty. I'm joined by my co-EVP, Louis Fermin, my brother from another mother, and also father, because we're not related. But
I don't know if I quite understood the connection. It didn't click. I don't know.
I don't know. It's been a super long week, and we are just fighting through it. Some of those weeks are just like that. You've got those challenging weeks, and as entrepreneurs, we fight through it. We find you got to embrace the suck, man. Like sometimes you just got to make it through the hard things. And we've had a tough week. But we are happy to be with you this morning. This is a bright spot of the day. So we appreciate being in community with you this morning. I want to bring in Michael Baird from the Baird team. He's our special guest agent today. Fantastic agent, runs a phenomenal operation. He's going to be talking through today the 5 steps of contracts. And so if we could bring in Michael Baird. Morning, Michael. How are you?
What's up, guys? Hey, where was my intro video? Like that was pretty killer. You guys on yachts and stuff. Like we got to get me that video for next time. But thanks for having me on, guys. How you doing this morning?
Oh, good, man, so great.
How are you doing, man?
Doing great. Good to see you guys. I love the setup there. I'm excited to pour into the LPT crew today, man.
Yeah, for absolutely. Sure. So for a lot of our guests who don't know who you are, do you mind kind of giving a run through of your business? What do you run? And, just kind of share a little bit about yourself to the group.
For sure. Denver, Colorado. We're in Greenwood Village, actually, like south side of Denver. Been in real estate for about, 13, 14 years now. Got an awesome team. We've grown a bunch lately. We're about 30 agents last year. We're over 60 now. Got an amazing team. We sold about 250 last year. We're on pace for over 500 this year. So a lot of growth, a lot of good things happening. And we're a disciplined team, man. Like that's what I want to talk about today, right? Like some of the things we do to the market is what it is, right? Interest rates are what they are. And things I'm going to talk about today is what we focus on every day to get results no matter what the market are. So I'm excited to pour into the community and talk about it and see what we can get into.
Awesome. Yeah, that is a great point because to your point, the market is whatever the market is. Like that's not something that we can control, but you can control how successful you are in every market by adopting the right thing, the right mindset, the right tools and tactics, and of course, consistency. That's the theme. Regardless of what market you're in, you're going to have to do something consistently. So I love to hear that. I love to hear the discipline. So let's jump right into it. What is making you guys so successful in a market where most people are doing less transactions? We know from an annual perspective, we're doing one of the 30-year lows. We're on pace again this year to do sub 4 million, which is our normal market is considered 5.5 million annual sales per year. And we're about 4 million sales per year right now. What are you guys doing to grow, double your business in this market?
Hey, man, that's a good question. So I got a little presentation today I'm going to go over, but I think just you look in the mindset of it, right? Like what's the average agent focus on? They focus on what the market's doing and they sit back and wait for results. They say if rates go down now to 5.5, I'll start getting results. The market will be in my favor, right? But what do we need to do? Because there's still thousands and thousands of homes selling every day, right? So why are we not the ones selling those homes? Because we're not having the conversations, we're not putting in the work. And so I think it all starts off with that mindset. We made the decision at the beginning of last year, we weren't going to look at rates. We weren't going to look at what the market was doing. We were going to show up every day and work. And like every agent listening today, if you're the one that shows up and works, you're the one that can get results. Right. And how many agents sit back and wait for that call, right? 2021, 2022, and the market was crazy. All we had to do was have our phone and have the ringer on, and we had people begging us to make offers. Now it's kind of the opposite, right? Like we got to go out and find those people, find those motivated people. And that's what I'm going to talk about today is just going into like how we do that and how we put, little changes into our business to get a lot more work.
I love that. And before you jump in, I want to just kind of highlight one thing, because it's something that you said that I think that is important to know, is that several years ago when it was like, hey, the business was coming to you, the skill that you had to adopt was not about having people come to you to buy homes. The skill was, how would you successfully out negotiate other people so that you could place buyers in homes? Like, that became the thing. How do we negotiate so that our terms are more favorable so we beat this multiple offer scenario that almost exists on every single property? Like, that was a skill to adopt. And so now it's kind of like different. Like, we're not necessarily seeing multiple offers really very, very often, maybe a super hot property, but in large part, that's pretty much gone away. Now the skill that you have to adopt is, how do I find the motivated people who are still transacting in today's market? Because it's not as many as what it was when we were, 6 million transactions were happening per year. So love to think about that concept, that the business just continues to evolve. The skill set that you have to learn just evolves based on whatever the market's doing. And so love to hear from you and your team on what that is right now.
And that's actually a really good point, because this business is cyclical, right? Yeah. We do go through different, seasonalities of the business. We do go through different industry seasonalities that could be more extended. And we can't get trapped on merely focusing on perfecting just one skill, because to your point, that one skill that was very important at that time isn't necessarily so important today, and we have to be nimble. This is a business that we have to constantly be nimble. We have to constantly stay on our feet, stay on our toes, because as things are changing, we need to be able to adapt. And to, Michael's point, the last thing we want to do when the market's contracting is not do anything and just sitting back and waiting. Like, that is by far the worst thing you can do, because what you're doing is you are losing market share. You are losing positioning. There are other agents like Michael and his team who are positioning themselves for the boom, as we've discussed. Boomsday prepping, right? Positioning for when that change of events do occur. You are now in position to capture the maximum market share. And if you start from behind the bell curve, like, it's going to be almost impossible for you to be able to obtain the same return that you could obtain if you were positioned accordingly.
So today, 5 steps to get more contracts, right? Like, I want to keep it simple. You guys reached out to me. I was like, what do I want to talk about to bring value? I'm just going to talk about how little improvements in your business can just create absolutely massive results. So the 5 steps are, so first of all, like, most agents are focusing on the wrong thing, right? They're like, oh, I need more leads. I need better leads. I need new strategies. I need the market to get better, right? If you don't have the right process, none of that matters. Okay. So, like, I think that's what I tell my team all the time. And if they're listening, they're probably nodding their heads right now. It's like, it's not something better. It's you make your process better and you be better. And Lewis, like you said, like, you go find those people that are motivated. So our 5 steps that we focus on, super simple. Our calls, right? And it doesn't have to be a phone call, right? It can be knocking on a door. It can be whatever your contact attempt is. Okay. So our calls, our conversations, our appointments set, our appointments met, and ultimately our contract signed, right? Like, I think those are 5 pretty simple steps that everybody agrees are necessary to go get business. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes, 100%.
So keeping it super simple. So what I dig into with my team, my coaching clients, anybody I'm working with, is where do we need help in these areas, right? Like, what areas are we struggling in? So if let's say we're making 1,000 calls, but we're only talking to 2 people, right? Like, there's something going on, right? We're calling the wrong list. We're saying the wrong thing. Our intro's bad on the phone call. Let's say we're talking to hundreds of people, but we're never setting appointments, right? Like, there's some sort of a breakdown in our ability to set appointments. So we look on a daily basis at all these and, like, where are we in the process? Where are we at going through this? And so I just want to show you some powerful math, right? So I'm not great with math, but I kept it simple here. So 500 calls, okay? And let's say you have 50 conversations. You get 10% conversations. You set 10 appointments, 7 of those appointments you actually meet, and that turns into 3 contracts signed, right? That's pretty basic math, right? You guys agree?
Yeah, 100% sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Super simple to follow. So now when you want to go take those 3 contracts to 6, right? You want to sell twice as many homes. You think, I got to go put in twice as much work. I don't have enough hours in the day. The market's down. These things aren't working. Like, how am I going to do this, right? Like, it feels overwhelming. Like, you go talk to a new agent who sold a couple homes and you say, hey, go double your output. It's going to seem really overwhelming. So we like to break it down of, like, so, hey, I make 10% more calls, I'll get 10% more results. not true, right? You don't need to do more. You need to get better at everything you're doing. And that's where agents go from being door openers, order takers, sending emails, to being real ninjas of the business, right? They get really good. They get really efficient at what they're doing. And so rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, try to do something new, try to change every day, keep going with what you're doing. And here's some simple math, right? If you get 10% better at each stage, you're going to make 10% more calls, right? Easy. You have more conversations, your appointments go up, your appointments met go up, and your contract signed go up. So by just getting each of those areas 10% better, you're going from 3 contracts signed to 5+ contracts signed. So what do you guys, what does that make you guys think of? Like those small improvements, do you think most real estate agents look at it that simply and break it down like that? Or do you think most people overcomplicate it?
100% they overcomplicate it, because they think just in the way that you're describing it, like, hey, if I want to double my business, I have to double my work, because the amount of output that I'm doing right now is what's driving this result. But what we always talk about is going deep in each particular layer of expertise. And so if you're talking about 500 calls, 500 TCPA compliant calls, I would add in there, just because that is a thing. But
I forgot to add that to my slides. My bad.
Yeah.
But of course.
Yeah, we're going to throw that one in there.
Yeah.
But so you're making these compliant calls, and so you're thinking, in order for me to double my output, because I'm getting out of these 500 calls, I'm getting 3 contracts, then I just have to start at the top. I have to start with the 500. Like, you don't think about being more efficient through the process. And you're right. Like, if I get a little bit better at scripting, if I get a little bit better at setting appointments, if I just tick a little bit on one of those things, the end result grows much faster than trying to double the initial. And I will also tell you this: if you went out there and said, hey, instead of trying to do 500 calls, I'm going to do 1,000 calls, compliant calls to get these results, I guarantee you your results go down, because it's you water yourself down. So I think it's about keeping it in whatever range is comfortable and increasing your expertise. And how you choose that benefit, either making less calls or making more money, is up to you. But that is the secret sauce of increasing your skill set.
An important point to just emphasize is, are we even tracking the data?
Yeah.
I can assure you there's going to be so many individuals on this call who don't even have their pipelines or their business roadmaps articulated in that fashion. And if you do not have it, then how can you improve anything? Like, you have to be able to have KPIs around different buckets so you can understand, where are the defects? Where do I need to pour into? What can I fix? What do I need to change? And it all starts with having the appropriate roadmap of your business, from prospecting, creating awareness at the top of the sales funnel, all the way taking them through down the sales funnel, down to contract, and then each and every one of these buckets. And without having this articulated, you are going to struggle identifying these things. You're going to, lean back on, hey, I made 500 calls and I got 3 contracts. Well, in order for me to get 6, then I got to make 1,000 calls. As you showed in your data there, Michael, like, if you just make slight improvements throughout each and every one of these buckets, you're going to end up doubling your business, with just slight improvements throughout the whole funnel. So, one of the things, just emphasizing, if we're sitting in the audience today and we don't have these processes articulated and KPIs around it, you're doing yourself a disservice, because it's going to be very hard to grow. It's going to be very hard to identify what things are in need. What do I need to work on? So that's an amazing starting point, is just having that.
Yeah. And kind of last thing before I turn it back to you, Michael, is, if you think about it, like, if, I don't know, let's say, Lewis, you like to run, right? Like, when you run, you go out there and you're saying, hey, I'm doing this average time in a mile. And you know that if you haven't had a chance to run in a month, it's likely going to drop back some, right? But you've got your baseline on what you plan on doing. And so if for anything else, it's just a measurement, right? Like, hey, I understand, like, this is where I'm at skill set wise. And if I want to go further, if that's my choice, then I understand which pieces I need to touch, or which areas I need to get better in. But again, if you don't measure it at all, you have no idea what your baseline is. You don't know if you need to make more calls or you need to get better at scripting. You can be phenomenal at scripting and have a really high conversion. But again, if you're not tracking that, you don't know where you need the improvement. You don't know what's already working for you. And that's really important to building a stable business.
And one more thing too, and from a mindset perspective, that impacts so negatively to the mind. Like, if you're just running around, just staying busy, and you're wondering, like, why I'm working all these hours, I'm staying so busy from my day to day, and I don't understand why my business isn't growing. Just organizing it can allow you to put in the work in the right places and not get that level of frustration, because there's so many agents that I speak with that express that, right? It's like, man, I'm working like these 10 hours, these 15 hours, and I'm not able to do more than what I was doing earlier. And I'm putting in the more hours, I'm putting in the more output, and it's not working. And a lot of that is because, again, you fall in this trap of just running around with your head chop off, let's call it, banging your head against the wall, and nothing's working. Well, we're not focused on the right places.
That's right. Okay. So next step, what do we do?
So you guys mentioned a couple of really good things there, right? Tracking your numbers. Like most real estate agents don't do that, right? We treat the real estate business like a hobby, right? We go out and it's fun, and we got into real estate because we wanted a flexible schedule, and then we realized, like, oh man, I gotta treat this like a business if I want results. And so I saw somebody in the chat say, where do I get the call list from? Where do I get the compliant contacts? And the calls, like I said, it could be knocking on doors. It could be people walking into your open house. It's contact attempts. So the important thing on this is I see real estate agents all the time limit themselves because they say they don't have X, Y, or Z. I don't have the people to call. I don't have the leads. I don't have whatever. But in this business, the agent that works hardest is the one that wins. And so I was on a coaching call with the team yesterday, and they're mostly social media leads, right? So like they're not really making calls, but they have DMs. They can reach out to their followers, right? They have ways to reach people. And so this business is about contacts, right? Contacts equal contracts. The more contacts you have, the more appointments you set, the more appointments you meet, the more contracts you get signed. So I don't want to I like keeping things really simple, right, guys? Like I like what can we do that we can actually track? And it's no big formula. It's no magic pill. It's if I track each one of these parts of the process and get a little bit better at it. And what I challenged my agents yesterday to do was like, hey, where am I the worst at this? Maybe I'm making a ton of calls. I'm having great conversations, but I'm never setting any appointments. So what I would challenge everybody that's listening today to do would be to go through the process and say, where can I put a little effort and have a big result, right? So, hey, if I'm never setting appointments, like you guys said, I need to go work on my scripting. If I set a ton of appointments, but nobody ever shows up, maybe I'm not providing enough value for people to actually show up. And one thing I would say that everybody here would benefit from is being a little more aggressive, right? In real estate, we don't like to push. We don't like to ask for the appointment. It kind of like, we don't want to upset the apple cart. We got this lead. We got this person that like, oh my God, they're talking to me, right? Like, and we don't want to push too hard. I've been telling my agents lately, like, try to push to the point where like it's too much, and you're never going to do it, right? We're all nice people, but like, go for that appointment, go for that next step, go for that thing that scares you. And that's where you're going to start having success.
That I agree with, because again, in our industry, you're never going to persuade someone to go buy a house that they're not interested in, or just, that's just not how it works. And so because of that, we really take on a consulting role, but there's still a way for you to have a sales tactic through a consulting role. And that's by ensuring that you've got that next appointment, or assuring that, you are pushing them to calls to action. And so again, it is still going to be whatever is best for them. And, ultimately they are going to make the decisions. Like, we're not saying tamper with that, but what we are saying is that at some point that need is going to arise, and the person who's there, the person who's more forefront, the person who's more organized in the approach of helping them get to that need or meet that need, are the people who are going to win. And so the way that I hear that is when you're saying be more aggressive, what I think about is like, hey, we may go see a house and you may not like it. And so we'll say, okay, well, we'll go back and take a look. I'm already going to set a point for the next one. Like, hey, I'll tell you what, when's your next opening? Friday at 3 p.m. Well, let's see what houses become available between now and then we're going to go see whatever that is Friday at 3 p.m. So you're just putting them into a sales process that they're expecting to see you again. Sometimes we don't like to do that, but it is important. And even if nothing pops up, then you can say, well, hey, we've already got the time carved out. Maybe let's hop on a quick Zoom and review your strategy, or let's review the list together, or, there's something that you can do to add value. But those things are so important, and it's so missed in our industry.
Yeah, I mean, that comment, we talk about this very frequently on on Real Estate First, this concept of treating your appointments like a doctor's office where there's always a follow-up appointment after you've had the appointment with the customer. That's probably one of the most drastic ways to make sure that appointment set bucket is maintained at a high level from a KPI perspective. Every customer that you are interacting with who are on, let's call it the rails of a potential buyer or seller, you should never wrap up any communications with them without having some type of future appointment booked. It could be as simple as, a buyer, you're touring houses with a buyer, you're out there showing properties. Maybe they didn't locate a property that they liked. At the very last property, why not pencil in the future date in which you will go back in the car and go back on a tour? Schedule a future date where maybe you'll hop on a Zoom call with them to go through evaluating the house criterias in which they are searching for. Even if, they don't know if they're going to locate houses that they like or favorite to go on that tour on that future date, at least you have a placeholder and it gives you a series of events between now and then. So for example, let's say today we're touring with customers. We have our list of 7 homes we're going to go tour with today. At the conclusion of the 7 homes, let's say the buyer says, I don't like any of them. I want to trash all of them. None of these I'm interested in. Well, perfect. When is your next availability for us to go back out there and go on a tour with you? Hey, my next availability is Monday. Perfect. Let's go ahead. Let's pencil in that date. We don't know if we're going to locate homes, but what we're going to do here in the next 24 hours is figure out what, where I'm going to work with you to figure out if we can find homes that we could use for that placeholder date for Monday. And what's going to happen is tomorrow I'm going to check in on you to see if there's homes in which we have articulated. On Sunday, I'm going to reach out to the customer so we can get the appointment set. And then Monday, we're going to be back out here touring once again. And you're setting the expectations for your customer. And that goes such a long way because now they're going to look at you as the expert. You are the expert in the process. Like, you are showing them that if you want to purchase or sell a house, like, this is what it means. This is what the process means. And you're not leaving it up to them to make that decision. But yes, putting them on that doctor office, you never leave there without your next appointment date. Like, everyone that you communicate should have a future appointment lined up.
We forget that they don't know the process like we do. Like, we think that they are just going to know what happens next, and you don't. And I will tell you, the people who put that cadence, they will look like the professionals because they are the professionals, but your time will be taken way more seriously. And if they are not serious, you're going to be able to identify that much quicker. If they have a genuine need, they're going to appreciate that organization. They're going to appreciate that approach. If they're just wasting your time, that's going to feel like too much for them, and you're going to have your answer, and you're going to be able to put them higher up the funnel and maybe connect with them at a deeper level when they are getting closer to actually making a decision.
Yeah, so true. And what's our job in this business? Our job is not to motivate people. We can't go motivate somebody like you guys said to go buy a $500,000 $1 million home, sell their home. Our job is to find motivated people and to remove their fear so they can move forward and do what they want to do. Right? Like, how many people, has anybody on this call worked within a real estate transaction that there wasn't some fear around it, right? Like, sell my house, I'm going to be able to find another one. If I buy a house, am I going to pay too much? There's all this fear. So our job, once we find somebody that's motivated, is to remove their fear and help them do what they want to do. And we do that by asking great questions. We do that, like you guys said, by being the guide, by saying this is the next step in the process. This is what we're going to do. And so, don't misinterpret when I say be aggressive. I don't mean be aggressive and, push somebody to do something they don't want to do. I mean, be aggressive in setting the course for a motivated person. Right. And if you go set the course, that's what professionals do. You talk about, a doctor, somebody needs a surgery. The doctor doesn't go in there and be like, hey, let me know when you think you might want this surgery. It's pretty critical that we have it done. But, hey, I'll reach back out. I'll shoot you an email and follow up later. Right. That's not what a professional does. And that's not what we should do as professional real estate agents. We know the path. We know their motivation. Once we have their motivation, we act as a professional, set the path, move them down that path, get them to where they want, and help remove their fear and hesitancy so they can go get that beautiful home that they want. And we get that commission check that we want. That's the win-win that as professionals we do.
That's right. That is so well said. Okay, so thinking through your process of growing from the 250 transactions to on pace of doing 500, and you probably looked at that same exact thing that you showed us, like, hey, here's how much overall calls are happening or activity around these things. Here's what our conversion looks like. what is your messaging to the people who maybe aren't doing as great of a job on convert? Because I'm sure there's some people on the team who are crushing it and some people who need support. And, there's through all the funnel, there's people who are excelling at that and people who need support. So what does it look like when you're supporting those people through an area maybe they're not doing quite as well in?
A lot of times we focus on things in this business that just don't really matter that much, right? And what I would tell anybody that's struggling is if you could go make it your goal every day when you wake up to lay your head on the pillow that night, having set one appointment with somebody, right? For a future meeting, for whatever, for a buyer consult, for whatever it is. If you make it your goal to set one appointment a day, you won't do it every day, but you will change your business. You will change your life, right? Because most real estate agents go through the business, they spin their wheels, they don't do anything really productive, and occasionally a deal lands in their lap, right? But if you change your business, if you change your focus to I'm going to set one appointment every day, and that's my only goal, right? You do that, the compounding effect of that, you look back at the end of the year and your business is going to double, triple, quadruple, even more, right? So that was the biggest focus that we had last year on our team, and we continue is, yes, we want to be good at all 5 of these steps that I mentioned. But if we set one appointment every day, even if we're horrible at conversion, horrible at everything else, we're still going to sell a lot of real estate and help a lot of people. So if you're struggling, look at what do I need to do? Where do I need to change my process to set one appointment every day? You're going to fill in the gaps and you're going to start having a lot more success.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Michael, we appreciate your time today. We obviously know you're incredibly busy with, if you're on pace for 500 houses per year, that means you're doing almost a closing per day as a team. You're managing it. So we appreciate you taking that time to be with us this morning and sharing with us what you are focusing on so that you and your team can be more successful. With that being said, we will end it here for today. Appreciate you guys continuing to jump in every single week to increase and hone your craft. It is so important. And once you learn to start doing this, like once you start to really interpret this information and put it into practice in your business, you'll get one little win and that's exciting. It will give you the motivation to do something else. And it starts to snowball effect. The hardest part is when you're putting in those things, you're trying those things and you're not quite getting the results yet, but they will come. They promise you they will come. So if you're struggling, if you've been trying to implement something, if you've been banging your head against the wall, I promise you, don't stop. Maybe look at what's working for you, what is not working for you. If there's an action that you like to do that's not as daunting on you, do more of that and turn off the thing that's a little more daunting. Figure out your balance, but I promise you, do not give up. You will eventually get the wins. Everybody feels it. We all feel it at every level of our business. Lewis and I feel it at our level of the business. Everybody feels that layer that you're constantly trying to break through. And we just want to continue to encourage you to break through it. So with that being said, we will end it there. We will see you this Monday for Motivational Monday. Of course, where Robert Palmer, founder and CEO, will be joining us, breaking down the market and walking us through our weekly kind of guidance. So see you Monday. Have a blessed and prosperous weekend.